Most people think that reprogramming the mind is a long and complicated process. But what if 7 days were enough to start? Yes, with simple practices, you can change your way of thinking, make room for new possibilities, and achieve a lighter, more mindful life. Science shows that small repeated actions can create new brain connections, and you can start today. Imagine waking up and, without even noticing, being wrapped in thoughts from the past. Unresolved situations, interrupted conversations, moments that left scars. This happens often, and the truth is, many of us are prisoners of these memories, as if stuck in a movie replaying old scenes, even if we want to move on. Each thought that arises takes us back to familiar emotions, like an old song we know by heart, but that brings us no joy. But this repetition not only holds us back, it shapes us, fixes us in a pattern that limits who we are today, and even more so, who we could be tomorrow. If each morning began with a focus on the present, on what we truly have now, our lives would take on a different shape. But there lies the challenge, doesn't it? These memories, these thought patterns, have become so automatic that we barely notice when we fall into them. It's like walking down a well-worn path, a habit that drains our energy and obscures new possibilities. Imagine if, instead of rehashing a problem from years ago, you could make room for a new experience, a new thought. This shift, however, requires courage, because the familiar, no matter how uncomfortable, gives us a false sense of security. This is where the challenge arises. How to break this vicious cycle? Research shows that around the age of 35, most of what we do becomes unconscious. Over 95% of our behaviors are automatic. In other words, most of our life happens on autopilot. And who hasn't felt the weight of trying to change a habit and failing at the first attempt? It's not easy because we're challenging years of programming, something so deep it feels like a part of who we are. But what if this automatic self weren't the absolute truth? What if instead it was just a repeated pattern, one that, with patience and practice, could be changed? Throughout this journey, there's a tool many overlook: meditation. More than just relaxation, meditation is a technique for connecting with these hidden programs and consciously reshaping our thoughts. When we meditate, we slow down our brain waves, allowing us to access parts of the subconscious where these patterns are rooted. Imagine, for instance, a simple breathing exercise that, practiced daily, allows you to access and change these repetitive thoughts. It's not just about peace, it's about recreating the mind, reprogramming it for something lighter, more alive. Most people unknowingly live in a repetitive cycle, a sequence of actions so ingrained it's almost like a pre-written script. They wake up at the same time, drink the same coffee, follow the same routines. By doing this, they perpetuate the same emotions, those already familiar, and that, from such familiarity, even seem like part of who they are. But in repeating these steps, they mold themselves to a pattern. It's no wonder many, at the end of the day, feel like they didn't live anything new. In truth, they lived the same as always. Imagine if you could break this routine with small changes, like taking a new route, trying a new hobby, or even talking to someone outside your usual circle. Breaking these cycles helps the brain disconnect from old emotions and open space for new feelings and ideas. This change, however small, brings a freshness that pulls us out of monotony and awakens curiosity for things we might have previously overlooked. It's an exercise in freedom, breaking free from the invisible prison of habit. Yet habit exerts an almost invisible power over us, and as much as we try, the pullback is constant. After all, the familiar is comfortable, even when it limits us. Imagine a person who spends years eating the same foods. When they try to change, they feel discomfort, the urge to go back to what they know, to what's easy. But this initial resistance is the very sign that they're on the path to something new, something that can transform them from the inside out, if they have the courage to persist. Changing the routine is the first step in allowing the mind to create new perspectives. Try adding something new to your morning, like a reading or exercise practice. However small this change, it begins to impact your thoughts, expanding what was once a safe little world into something more dynamic and vibrant. Through these small breaks, the subconscious adapts and the new starts to integrate. If this content is helping you, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss more tips like this. Changing behaviors that have accompanied us for decades is like rowing against a strong current. It's not that the will to change is lacking, but it's like a small flame trying to light up a space dominated by old shadows. From birth, we absorb patterns, ways of thinking, of reacting. And over time, these patterns take over more than 95% of our daily actions, especially after age 35. At this point, the mind acts on autopilot like a system that makes decisions for us without us even noticing. Imagine wanting to change a habit, maybe start exercising regularly. The initial impulse is full of energy, of motivation. But as the days go by, the old pattern emerges whispering, "Leave it for later." It seems simple, but it's a true internal struggle. This battle is between the conscious mind, which knows what's best, and the subconscious, which prefers the known, the safe. This is where many give up, thinking they might not have enough willpower, or that they weren't born to change. But there's a strategy that can be helpful. Make the new habits so simple and accessible that resistance is reduced. For example, instead of trying to run 5 kilometers at once, start with a 5-minute walk. This helps the brain avoid activating automatic resistance, allowing the new behavior to gradually take hold. After all, what matters is progress, not immediate perfection. And as the habit takes root, the sense of change starts to become tangible. The truth is, change requires patience and consistency. It's like planting a seed and waiting for it to sprout without forcing its growth. When we understand that change is a process and that the subconscious needs time to adapt, anxiety lessens, and we commit to the long term. Each small victory in this process is another brick in building a new reality. This challenge, although it seems like a barrier, is also an opportunity. By overcoming resistance, we not only create a new habit, but also expand our self-confidence and inner strength. Meditation is much more than just sitting quietly and trying to clear the mind. It's a powerful practice for accessing the deeper layers of who we are, and with that, breaking patterns that keep us stuck. When we meditate, we slow down the frantic pace of thoughts, and the brain enters a state of slower waves, which allows access to the subconscious. It's like opening a door to the basement of the mind, where our habits, fears, and beliefs are stored. This direct access to what's hidden gives us a chance to change the foundation of our thoughts and behaviors. A practical example is using meditation to deal with anxiety. Instead of fighting the feeling, meditation teaches us to observe it, allowing it to dissipate without effort. Imagine someone who, every day, spends 10 minutes taking deep breaths and focusing on calming the mind. Gradually, this practice becomes a refuge, a way to face the world with more serenity. And over time, the impact of this small action begins to reflect in all aspects of life. Moreover, regular practice helps create space for new thoughts. When we meditate, we learn to clear the mind of old worries, making room for new ideas and perspectives. This opens us to possibilities that, on autopilot, we would never perceive. It's a process of deconstructing the old to allow the new to flourish. Each meditation session is a step toward a mental reset, preparing the ground for deep changes. The beauty of meditation is that it doesn't have to be long or complicated. Practiced consistently, even for just a few minutes, it can foster significant transformation. Meditating before bed or right after waking up, for instance, can reset the rhythm of an entire day, changing how we respond to challenges and increasing the sense of control and well-being. It's a practice that strengthens the spirit and makes us more receptive to what truly matters. With time, meditation teaches us that we can reinvent ourselves. And what starts as an exercise in patience becomes a tool for profound change, allowing us to access parts of ourselves we didn't even know existed. There's a fascinating idea in quantum physics that suggests when we intensely imagine something, our brain starts treating the experience as real, paving the way for its manifestation. Dr. Dispenza explores this concept by encouraging us to visualize the life we want to live, not as a mere fantasy, but as a mental preparation exercise. When we imagine a desired situation in rich detail, feeling the emotions, the smells, the environment, the brain begins to register it as something possible, almost tangible. This shifts how we act and respond to the world around us. For example, think of someone who dreams of achieving financial stability. Instead of just wishing for it superficially, this person starts visualizing daily what their life would be like with that stability. What habits they would have, how they'd manage their time, how they'd feel with that peace of mind. This constant exercise creates a mental map that the brain follows, guiding the person's actions to move closer to that goal. It's like planting the seed of what they desire and allowing it to grow and take root in reality over time. This visualization practice isn't limited to material goals. Someone who wants to improve their health, for instance, might imagine feeling more energetic, motivated, and in a state of well-being. By reinforcing these images, the brain prepares to implement real changes, reprogramming the patterns that previously limited progress. This process works almost like emotional and mental training, helping to build confidence in the ability to change and creating a field of possibilities. The quantum mindset, as it's known, invites us to see the world as something moldable, where our intentions and emotions have a direct impact. Instead of being mere spectators of life, we become active creators, aligning our focus and actions with what we desire. The practice of visualizing the future allows us to redefine the present and shift from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance, expanding our perception of what's possible to achieve. This new way of thinking, when applied daily, can open doors to transformations that might initially seem out of reach. What you visualize sincerely and with commitment isn't just a distant dream. It's a reality that, with practice and intention, can very well become your lived experience. Every time we try to change, there's an invisible force that pulls us back, like a stretched elastic band wanting to return to its original position. This elastic is made up of the emotions and memories associated with what's familiar, with what we already know. Resistance appears as a sense of discomfort, as if our body is warning us to stay in line. This is the moment when many give up, mistaking this discomfort for a sign that they aren't ready or capable. In reality, this resistance is the barrier that, once overcome, opens doors to true transformation. During meditation, for example, it's common for old emotions to surface. Anyone who's tried to sit in silence knows how easily memories or bothersome thoughts seem to come out of nowhere. This is the subconscious bringing up what's been stored and is now ready to be released. An interesting exercise is to let these emotions flow, observing them without judgment, understanding that they are part of the healing process. By doing so, we become less attached to these emotions and more capable of transforming them. Overcoming resistance is like strengthening a muscle. At first, it's uncomfortable, but with practice and patience, it gets easier. Imagine someone who decides to speak in public but feels paralyzing anxiety in the first attempts. By persisting, they start to notice the fear diminishing, making room for confidence. This is the same process that happens when we overcome emotional discomforts in meditation. Over time, what once seemed an insurmountable barrier begins to lose its power. The key is to make the practice a daily and consistent one. Setting aside a moment each day to observe these feelings without attaching to them creates a freedom that many have never experienced. It's a way to reconnect with who we truly are without the chains of the past. And in freeing ourselves from this resistance, we realize we're able to experience the world more authentically and lightly. This journey of facing resistance and persisting even when it's uncomfortable is one of the greatest acts of courage. Because in doing so, we uncover a version of ourselves that was hidden beneath layers of old fears and limitations, ready to live more fully and consciously. True transformation requires consistency. Just as the body takes time to strengthen with physical exercise, the mind also needs regular practice to be reprogrammed. This process of change happens gradually, not all at once. When we commit to repeating practices like meditation and mindfulness, we create a new internal rhythm that reconditions the brain and body to a new reality. And it's amazing how, after just a week of consistent practice, you can notice small changes. From a sense of lightness upon waking to how you handle the day's challenges. This commitment to repetition is what truly solidifies new ways of thinking and feeling. When we start, the challenge is staying on the path without seeing immediate results. But over time, each meditation session and moment of self-awareness contributes to a subtle transformation. Imagine dedicating 15 minutes each morning to meditate for 7 days and beginning to notice how your day flows more smoothly, less affected by stress. These small advances are like steps on a ladder, gradually leading us to a new vision of ourselves. With each repetition, the subconscious absorbs the message that this is the new reality and begins to respond accordingly. It's like teaching the brain to trust in a new emotional routine. This is where the real power of daily practice reveals itself. Continuity is what allows new patterns to become automatic, allowing autopilot to now work in our favor instead of holding us back to old behaviors. This reprogramming, in addition to building new emotional responses, also enhances our perception of what we want in life. We start to see what truly matters, and this clarity helps us make choices more aligned with who we want to be. It's a gradual awakening, where each practice becomes an investment in our personal growth and well-being. Each meditation session is like a piece of a puzzle that over time reveals a much more complete and authentic picture of ourselves. The power of consistency lies in its simplicity. Small practices done day after day generate a profound impact. Because in the end, lasting transformation doesn't come from a big leap, but from the sum of small, constant steps. Keep watching our channel's videos and apply what you learned today to truly transform your life. How about trying these practices in the coming days to see the impact? With small steps, you can break old patterns and discover a new version of yourself. Subscribe and activate notifications to keep up with more content like this. And check out the recommended video on the screen to continue learning about mental reprogramming.